Hello, everybody, and welcome to another season of Perspectives. I'm Sam Jones, and it's good to have you with us again. Well, with all that's going on in the world and across the country, it's sometimes hard to realize that right here at home, we share some of the same problems found throughout the rest of the country. Today, we're going to take a look at one of those. First, we're going to identify the problem, then talk with folks who've got some firsthand knowledge of it, and then try to better understand it, and maybe we can do something about it. First, let's take a look at it.
Spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountains in majesty. What I'm singing about is America, sweet America. You know, God shed His grace on thee, and He crowned thy good. Save it, brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. You know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this. America, I love you, America. You know, my God, He done shed His grace on thee. Y'all ought to love Him for it, because He crowned the good. He told me He would. Save it, brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, thank you, Lord.
We'll be right back, and you'll hear what the locals have to say about this very serious issue. Stay with us. Mack Haltom is our first guest, and Mack has a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge about the problems that we just addressed on that first segment. Mack, good to have you here.
Thank you, Sam. It's my pleasure to be here, sir.
Appreciate you taking time.
Absolutely.
First of all, to let the folks know, where are you? What do you do?
I'm the CEO, Executive Director of the Tulsa Day Center. We are an established nonprofit that serve, our mission statement is pretty simple. We serve those who are experiencing or at risk for homelessness. Been there for almost 24 years, not as director, but for most of my career there I was associate director and did some case management as well. So I've seen what Tulsa's done and what we're doing, dealing with those that are experiencing homelessness, and we continue to do that.
Things are changing.
Yes.
The wind is blowing, and we now see a growth in homelessness. What's causing it?
Well, there's a number of reasons, Sam. It's a very complicated, multifaceted kind of issue, unfortunately. There's the issue of what we're seeing more now than we did just a few short years ago, pre-pandemic, was the rise of those unsheltered. That's what you're seeing outside a lot of. We have to do an annual count in Tulsa, and other cities do this as well for HUD, it's called a point-in-time count. And what we're seeing is those numbers. We do a citywide. We do the best we can. Volunteers and other agencies do a one-night count, shelters. But for the last couple of years, of the total numbers we've seen that are experiencing homelessness, we're seeing a rise, about 39% that are unsheltered. And there's some reasons for that. There is in Tulsa, there is a lack of shelter space. Before the pandemic, we were already totally at capacity and busting at the seams already. But the pandemic kind of forced people, it forced people to go out and to camp. That was the solution of the pandemic at that time, especially in Tulsa. And in other communities was, we'll leave you alone, you need to go, and we'll go that way. What we did at the Day Center, we kept the 100 or so of the most vulnerable people that we felt needed to stay inside 24/7. And that's what we did through that period of time.
For the last couple of months, I've been on the streets.
Okay.
Late in the evening, early night. I've seen things. It's astounding what's out there. And you're particularly grabbed when you see a child.
Yes.
And there are children involved.
Yes.
More women than men. The numbers don't match my concept of homelessness.
That's true. One of my concerns the last couple of years especially is seeing the increase of family homelessness, of unsheltered families with children that are either on the streets or they're sleeping in their cars. It's definitely a problem. Yes. There's other reasons why people are experiencing homelessness more. We have the mental health crisis that I believe that's taking place, as well as people still losing their jobs. There's the issue of people just always being on the brink of going on the streets because of just maybe of a life change. A lot of people are paying extremely more than 30% of their income for housing. And one little life change can throw someone in the streets. It could be a job loss, it could be transportation loss, it could be a domestic violence issue that takes place within the family that can put people into the streets.
But at the street level is where the rubber meets the road. It's where you crash.
Yeah, it is.
And I've met a few of the folks. I've met a college graduate. I've met, and he clearly was when you talk to him. I've met another who it was obvious he was lucky to get through the first grade. The one thing they all share, and I mentioned this to you before we started, was there's a look in the eyes. And that look is haunting.
Yes.
It just tears your heart out.
It can. It certainly does. When they get to that point in time, Sam, a lot of those people that are going through that experience are experiencing chronic homelessness. They've experienced this crisis for quite some time. So it's almost to the point where it's no longer a crisis. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a mindset sometimes. And sometimes they lose hope. I don't mean they lose hope necessarily themselves. They kind of lose hope in the system and hope in what's needed to get them to the next step of getting them out of that situation.
You know, I'm 80 years old, and I recall very easily the day when we used to have hobos and bums. And there was a distinct difference. A bum would do nothing. A hobo would chop wood or clean up your yard for a slice of pie. Totally different concept.
Yeah.
What we have now is an economic impact that can come from any number of situations. Anything can trigger it. They're so close to the brink.
Correct.
And once they cross that line, they don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's true. Oftentimes they don't have a choice. The family makeup has changed over the years as well. You know, someone that needed help, usually a family member would come and house them. Also, oftentimes I want to say something we talked about earlier as well. I believe we're at a point in time, we may be past the point in time where our country and state really needs to take a look at some systemic changes to serve people that are experiencing homelessness, specifically those that have a serious mental health issue that keeps them on the streets for one reason or the other. I'm not in favor of institutionalizing like we used to do with the eastern states and those kind of things, but we're doing that anyhow. There are a great population of those that are seriously mentally ill and homeless, and they may have broken a crime, they may have done something wrong, that are now in our jails and in our prisons. At one time, the highest consumer of psychotropic medications is the Department of Corrections. Now,
No
is
kidding.
that something that we need to take a look at? I think so.
I think you're right.
I think so. I think there's a better, more humane way of taking those that are seriously mentally ill before they get to the point in time. And my understanding and what I've seen over the years I've worked is the need for longer term treatment, not just stabilization, not just a 7-day stay in a hospital. I'm talking about a long-term stabilization method. And I'm not talking about keeping them in there forever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there's ways that we can go in and start working on housing and have housing available for someone that's being discharged. There are some states that are doing that now.
And the sad thing about it is, what's happening in Tulsa, what's happening on the streets here, is happening all over the country.
That is correct, yes, sir. That is correct. By the time you get to the point, one of the interventions that we do at the Day Center, we're a housing-focused shelter, okay? We believe everyone can be rehoused. Our vision, we have a vision, we envision where every Tulsan will have a home. That's a pretty crazy vision, isn't it? But we are sticking to that, and we have programs in place, federal. We get private dollars as well from foundations and others that help us get people back into housing. We do not want people to fall into chronic homelessness. I have seen over my years, Sam, people that will come in to the front door of our building, and in 6 months, I've seen them so deteriorated. And it's either be a health issue, a mental health issue, could be a substance abuse. Oftentimes people become addicted after they become homeless because that's the way they cope. That's how people learn to cope with. Mm-hmm. So I think that if we can catch them quicker in their situation and rehouse them, we do that. It's called rapid rehousing. It's not the way it used to be, but what we do with rapid rehousing, we try to get the family or an individual and look at their situation and work quickly on trying to get them rehoused. We've done a very good job doing that in the last several years. Last year we rehoused 400 individuals back into homelessness in just 1 year. Now,
Mack, I have to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
It's not fair to do it, but I've got to. We've got less than a minute and a half left.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you're fine. Don't.
Okay.
You're just fine. We need this information. What can be done on the average person's end to help with this growing problem?
Yes. Well, I could say, as a director of the Day Center, of course, we need the donations, we need that help to continue to do what we're doing. But I think it's time, Sam, that we kind of figure out a grassroots momentum effort on how we can change some things systemically within our city and within our state and within our country. I think it's going to have to take that. People are getting fed up with folks that are experiencing homelessness, and I get that. Downtown businesses and those kind of things, but remember, these are our fellow citizens.
That's the point.
And we've got to respond to them with compassion and understanding, see where they're at. I have a lived experience board member that could share a story to you how he went from the streets back into where he's at now, being a successful businessman. So there are success stories out there. We need to listen to them.
My final question to you is this. With all you've seen and with all you see out there daily and nightly, how do you live with it?
Well, I draw on my faith a lot. I draw on a lot on my talking to my spouse about it, and also colleagues and friends. We discuss this situation all the time, And I have friends in this business for many years, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. So it's a coping mechanism for me to do that.
Mack, thank you.
Sam, thank you, sir.
Let's do it again.
I could talk about this forever. Thanks.
Maybe it'll help. Thank
I hope
you.
so. Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more on this issue right after this. And we're back, and this time we've got a lady that, if you don't know her, it's your loss. She's been on the city council how many years?
12 years.
12 years. And you've done more than that. You're everywhere. Jeannie Crew is here. It's good to have you, babe.
I'm blessed to be able to give.
The subject is homeless folk. And you know the numbers are growing. Mm-hmm. You know, Tulsa has a crisis. Mm-hmm. They have a crisis. Mm-hmm. Other cities have the same crisis going on. Mm-hmm. What do we do about it?
Well, one thing, we have started a committee. It started at the council. The mayor has created a larger committee. We meet every other week at least, if not every week, to talk about. You can have money, but if you don't have a plan, if you don't get those wraparound services, you're not going to accomplish anything. And being an ER nurse, volunteering at the day center like I've done in the past, we have to understand the needs. You cannot put someone off the street that knows how to be a good tenant, knows how to pay their rent, pay their electric, bring food in. We've got to keep those wraparound services. So that's something on the committee I've really been pushing.
The homeless culture is so diverse. Mm-hmm. It runs from educated mm-hmm. to non-educated, mm-hmm. black, white, Asian, any culture you want is on the street.
I see them every day.
And
Sam.
You know that you can't just go in and say, oh, you don't have a mental illness, because mm-hmm. that ain't going to work.
You got to have the wraparound services
You've
for
got to have
evaluation.
all kinds of services. And where do we start?
And that's what we're looking at. We were very blessed that the City of Tulsa citizens voted, as you are one of them, to improve our Tulsa project for $75 million. People don't understand you can't always come up with an idea. The money's not available now, but that's why we've got to come up with the best plan. That's why we've been to Denver. That's why we're going to Texas. That's why we've been in Oklahoma City. What is the best way to spend the money? We can tell you how not to spend it. We had an example of a hotel that residents didn't like, but we had to house people during last winter. I didn't feel like that turned out as great for our city and the use of our money. But we've got to figure out that plan. How are we going to get wraparound services in every hotel, every day center? The homeless does a great job because they have the staff there to do that. But we've got to educate citizens to understand these are not overnight problems. These problems have been going on for years, and they're in every city. And we've got to just have help. We've got to learn what other cities are doing, which that's what the city council and the mayor are working on now, finding the best practices. We've got to have those low barrier shelters. We have people coming out of the hospital that are homeless and no place to go. Well, the hospital's having to keep them longer, so then, you know, being a nurse, that's a concern for me because you're having to wait longer to get a room because we don't have rooms available because there's no place for some of our unsheltered to go. So we've got to work out plans. There's so many different groups that we're looking at. The people with mental health, the people with alcohol. You know, how do we get the support each individual needs? How do we teach people a budget? I go out and have meetings with our Tulsa Housing Authority, and they tell me a lot of people are behind on the rent. How are we helping them understand what their priorities are and understand we are the most blessed city with so many wonderful groups, George Kaiser Family Foundation, Hardesty, everyone, I can't even name them all, that are helping. But we've got to figure out how the best way to help these people.
The solution's got to lie somewhere between caring and throwing money.
Yes.
Because that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And I got to tell you,
we throw
I've
money.
been out, as I told our other guest a while ago, I've been out late in the evening. I have seen, I have heard, I have watched, I've taken pictures, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing in a lot of cases. Then I find out Tulsa isn't unique in that respect. We have it all over the country. But there is a glimmer of hope, because some cities and towns have found partial solutions to it. And that's what you're saying you're involved in.
Yes. We went out in Denver. There's a tiny home program. We're getting 2 built in Tulsa now that the people can stay the rest of their life if they choose. As long as they're married, it's not for children. But we also, with children, we're working with Tulsa Housing. The mayor's made this a priority, that how do we get families into Tulsa Housing on the priority list that need to be housed now. Those babies need to get in school. They need to have a clean, good, healthy environment. And so that's been the priority of this group with 4 counselors and the mayor's staff and several of the nonprofits.
So many of them living on the razor's edge.
Yes.
Evidence indicates that the child or the children in that family get their only balanced meal, or perhaps their only meal of the day, at school.
I know.
That's not the way it should be.
No, it should not.
And the parent is made to suffer. Emotions boil over. There's child abuse. And I mean, when they hit the street, it gets worse.
I'm very involved in Webster High School, so I know those issues. And I get calls from my constituents. I had a lady the other day, doesn't have a car. I'm trying to help her learn the new microbus system, which is a change for people. It's kind of like an Uber type system. But people, and her son has a disability. He acted up at school, and I was not where I was able to leave, but I kept in contact with her to make sure the child arrived home, because she had no transportation to get to the school to pick up her child. And she has, I mean, we have citizens out there that need our help so bad. That's why I give my cell phone to everyone. If they have an issue, I do this because I hope I can help them in some kind of way.
Is the rest of the city council as well informed as you are?
Oh, there's a lot of well-informed city councilors. You know, of course, Phil Lakin works for one of the largest giving organizations. He's on this committee with me.
He's with the
Lori
Kaiser
Decker
Foundation.
Wright. Yes, and we all know this is happening. We all go to meetings. When we went to Denver, we had a group. When we went to Oklahoma City, we had a group looking at their homeless shelters and asking, what do you feel you could do if you could change something right now that would make it easier, more convenient, make people feel welcome to even want to come to the shelter?
Begs the question then, of the cities you've visited so far, are there any that have stumbled across some sort of solution?
There's small little pockets that are important. It's not one thing that you're going to come out, Sam, today and say, we're going to change our whole city. It's going to take pockets because needs are different. As I say, with the mental health, with families, with those wraparound services. So we've got to look at all different factors. What's good in a tiny home for a single individual or a couple that needs a place to stay that have been on the streets for years is different than a family. They need apartments, they need stability, they need someone to help them with their financial. One of the things that we have also looked at that people don't always realize, and we're working with John Fothergill, the treasurer, how do we keep people in their homes? That it doesn't go, and John does a great job of trying to keep people's taxes up to date, because if your property tax, you know, if your properties go on the block to sell, it's hard to recuperate from that.
It is.
So,
Jeannie, we're out of time.
I know. I can, you know, I'm like Mack. There's so many things that I'm involved with that we started, because there's people that can't even get. Oh, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're exactly what we needed to hear. Thank you for taking time to visit.
Thank you so much.
Will you come back and do it again? Because clearly this is going to be an ongoing issue.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And we're getting ready to go next month to Austin.
We're out of time. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you for
you.
joining us, folks. We're all out of time. We'll see you back here next time.